Here's the recording for pages 42 to 45. The fourth clue, a key to the strange writing. The cuneiform writing was different from anything else historians and archaeologists had seen before. No one knew how to begin to read it. The scholars would need another clue to decipher all the strange symbols. It came not from the tells or even from Mesopotamia itself. The key to cuneiform writing turned up in another part of the Middle East, in Persia. Find Persia on the map on page 38 to 39. What once was Persia is now the country called Iran. Locate Iran on an up-to-date map or globe. So here is Persia right here. Notice it's by the Persian Gulf and the Caspian Sea. At the foot of the Zagros Mountains of Persia, a huge cliff held a secret. In ancient times, Darius the Great, a Persian king, carved a message on this rock face. He wanted to make sure that everyone knew he was a great king. So he had the message carved in there, or in 3 languages. All 3 languages were written in cuneiform. The writing stood about 300 feet above the ground. So the first challenge archaeologists faced was getting close enough to study it. 300 feet is about as tall as a 30-story building, so it was no easy task to get a good look at the writing on this sheer cliff. With a little ingenuity and a good dose of courage, an Englishman named Henry Creswicki Rawlinson rigged a system using long ladders, cables, and hooks. Then, dangling from the end of a rope, Rawlinson copied the writing. The toughest work still lay ahead. Scholars had to figure out what the writing said. Rawlinson had a bright idea. He knew that many writings of Persian kings began like this: so-and-so the great king, the king of kings, the son of so-and-so. Maybe the cuneiform writing also began with these words, the scholar suggested. So he went to work studying the cuneiform to test his idea. The order of the marks told him that he was right. Now that they had a key, other scholars could figure out what one of the messages. It described the king's victories in battle and how he had gained his throne. Perhaps they could use that message as a key to translate the other 2 messages. One of those 2 messages was written in the languages of ancient Babylon. Scholars compared the Babylonian message with the writing on the tablets from the southern Mesopotamia. They matched. Scholars used proper nouns and their knowledge of the first inscription to help them decipher what the second Babylonian cuneiform text said. They suspected, though, that cuneiform was not designed for writing in Babylonian because in some cases there was an awkward fit between signs and pronunciation. That made them wonder if the Babylonians had borrowed their writing from an earlier and separate people, a people who used the 3rd language on the mountain. Can you guess whose writing the Babylonians borrowed? Step by step, the scholars had managed to find the earliest writings of all. Years later, they would decipher these writings. Once they learned how to read them, a whole new world opened up for them. The clay tablets gave up their secrets, leading the archaeologists back past the Babylonians to the people who had invented cuneiform writing, the Sumerians. The mystery of Sumer was almost solved. The 5th clue, digging deeper. Archaeologists finally put together the last pieces of the puzzle. As they dug into the tells of southern Mesopotamia, they unearthed the ancient cities of Babylon, and then older and older artifacts. At last they came to the cities of Sumer. The archaeologists went to work studying the Sumerian artifacts and were astonished to find that many were made before 3000 BC. People all over the world were amazed. Civilization in Mesopotamia was older than anyone had dreamed. The archaeologists had discovered remains from the earliest known civilization on Earth. Often, the archaeologists could not figure out exactly what they had found. The artifacts had been buried for thousands of years, and many had been crushed by the weight of the soil upon them. The pieces were mixed with dirt and clay. Archaeologists tried to remove their discoveries without breaking them into even smaller pieces. Sometimes it took hours to remove a tiny piece of a single object. The teams of archaeologists working in southern Mesopotamia found all sorts of Sumerian treasures: helmets and gold crowns, gold drinking cups, daggers, harps, and silver jewelry. These artifacts show that the Sumerians had developed many skills and talents, and yet for thousands of years, all this evidence of a thriving civilization lay buried and forgotten beneath the sand and dust of all of ages. What happened here? Sir Leonard Woolley was a British archaeologist who spent 12 years, from 1922 to 1934, excavating the Sumerian city of Ur. The map of Sumerian cities on this page shows where Ur was located, so right here. Woolley made a discovery that excited the whole world. Deep in the ruins of Ur, he found 16 pits, which he called the royal tombs. At the bottom of each lay the skeletons of many men and women. The pits were grave pits. Woolley came upon surprise after surprise in the pits. He found the remains of soldiers with copper helmets on their heads and spears at their sides. He found lyres and harps and the musicians who had played them, their songs silenced forever. There were wagons with the bones of their drivers in them and the bones of oxen laying in front. In one tomb, the body of a woman was set apart from the others. She wore a fantastic headdress of gold and large crescent gold earrings. Her body was covered with beads of gold, silver, and lapis lazuli. Woolley had discovered the remains of a famous queen known as Queen Puabi. The bodies of 5 men with copper daggers guarded the entrance to her grave, and her ladies-in-waiting slept near her in neat, orderly rows. Woolley found no signs of struggle or violence, so all the men and women in the grave pit must have died peacefully. What did it mean? Woolley studied the clues to find out. One clue seemed especially important. Next to each body was a little cup. After studying all the clues, Woolley concluded that first a large deep hole was dug in the ground, with a dirt ramp leading down into it. Queen Puabi's body was placed in a stone tomb in the grave pit. Then all the queen's servants went down the ramp, almost certainly knowing as they descended that they were going to die, and perhaps believing they would serve their queen in the world beyond. When they were all in the pit, each one drank from a cup that probably held some kind of drug that put them to sleep. While they were asleep, the pit was filled with dirt. Then the funeral was over. We may never know for sure if Woolley's explanation was right. We do know that the grave pits were dug about 4,500 years ago, and that their treasures can still be seen today. A mystery is solved. Archaeologists and historians want to know much more about the life of the ancient Sumerians. Perhaps in time they will discover a civilization that developed even earlier than Sumer. But at least one great mystery has been solved. Sumerian civilization, forgotten for centuries, has been unearthed. And here's some of the items that they found. An ancient Sumer lies in the modern-day nation of Iraq. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, Iraq was ravaged by tyranny and war. Excavations of Sumer stopped in 1991 after the Persian Gulf War. Archaeologists hope to go back to Iraq and resume their work as soon as they can. That's the end of the reading of pages 37 to 45.